If you're in foreclosure and you also have a HELOC or second mortgage, this is the episode you do not want to skip. Because most homeowners are told what's happening with their first mortgage. Almost nobody explains what happens to the second. Does it disappear? Can they still collect? Can they come after you later? Does a foreclosure wipe everything out? There's a lot of confusion around this, and confusion creates fear. So today we're going to slow it down and make it clear. Hi, I'm Hope with the Offer Company. We've been helping Arizona homeowners navigate foreclosure situations for over 18 years. And if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, you're not alone. Most people we talk to were never fully told how this system works. That's what this episode is about. Clarity and control. I had a conversation recently with a homeowner who told me almost confidently, well, at least once the foreclosure happens, the HELOC will just disappear. And I could hear the relief in their voice, because if that were true, it would simplify everything. But foreclosure doesn't work on relief, it works on structure. And this is where people get caught off guard. If you're in foreclosure in Arizona and you have a HELOC or second mortgage, here's the question everyone asks. If the first forecloses, doesn't the second just go away? It can get wiped off the property. That part is true, but the debt itself, that doesn't automatically disappear. The lien on the house and your personal obligation are two different things. And that's where people get surprised later. Understanding that difference early gives you leverage. And that's where smart planning starts. Let me paint a picture. Imagine 3 buckets stacked on top of each other. The first bucket fills first. If there's overflow, it trickles into the second. If there's still something left, it reaches the third. Foreclosure works the same way. And once you understand that stacking system, the behavior of lenders starts making more sense. When we talk about HELOCs and second mortgages during foreclosure, we have to understand lien position. The first mortgage gets paid first. That's why it's first position. The HELOC is behind it. If there's no equity left at auction, the second lender usually receives nothing. But here's the key. Just because they get nothing from the sale does not always mean they can't try to collect the unpaid balance later. Arizona law determines that. And knowing that before the auction changes how you approach everything, a lot of homeowners don't even hear the word deficiency until months after the foreclosure. And when they do, it feels like something new just appeared out of nowhere. But it didn't appear. It was always part of the math. And if we're going to talk about control, we have to talk about that math clearly. Let's make deficiency simple. If your home sells and the sale doesn't cover what you owe, that unpaid balance is called a deficiency. Arizona protects many primary first mortgages with anti-deficiency laws. But HELOCs, second mortgages, some HOA balances, and certain HUD loans can sometimes pursue collection depending on the structure of the loan. That means after foreclosure, a lender may still try to recover the difference. Not always, but sometimes. And this is why doing nothing is rarely a strategy. Now here's the part most people are never told. Foreclosure is one path. It is not the only path. And if your home is worth less than what you owe, there is a structured way to resolve both liens intentionally instead of letting the auction decide. That's where short sales enter the conversation. A short sale only applies when your home is worth less than what you owe. If you owe $500 and the home is worth $450,000, you're short $50,000. In a short sale, the lender agrees to accept less than the full balance and release the lien. But here's the real power. When negotiated properly, we push for full release of liability from both the first and second lien holders. That means once it closes, they cannot come back later. That's strategic resolution. A homeowner once told me something that stuck with me. They said, "It feels like the second lender just woke up." For months, nothing. Then suddenly, multiple calls a day. Different departments, different tones. It felt urgent, almost threatening. But when we looked at the timeline, nothing had changed emotionally. What had changed was position. If you're getting more calls from your HELOC lender than your first mortgage, there's a reason. They know they're at risk of being wiped out at auction, so sometimes they apply pressure. But pressure doesn't mean power. When you understand their position, you realize they often have more incentive to negotiate than you think. Calm strategy beats panic every time. And when you respond from knowledge, everything shifts. Every foreclosure situation eventually hits a fork in the road. One direction assumes there's value in the property. The other assumes there isn't. That single difference, equity versus no equity, changes the strategy completely. And pretending it doesn't is where people lose options. If there's equity in your home, second mortgages usually get paid when the property sells. That's straightforward. But when equity is tight or negative, that's when options matter. Do you sell before auction? Do you negotiate a short sale? Do you pursue modification? Each path has different consequences. The only path that removes control is ignoring the second lien entirely. And foreclosure is never the only conversation happening. I remember speaking with a homeowner who had every document printed out in a neat stack. They knew the first mortgage inside and out, payment history, sale date, trustee details. But when I asked about the HELOC, there was silence. It wasn't avoidance, it was tunnel vision, and tunnel vision is incredibly common during foreclosure. The biggest mistake I see during foreclosure: homeowners focus only on the first mortgage. They treat the HELOC like it doesn't exist. But second liens, HOA balances, HUD claims, those are part of the full financial picture. When you address all of it together, you create clarity, and clarity creates options. There is almost always a structured solution. You just need to understand how the pieces fit. And that's exactly what we do here. If you're facing foreclosure and you have a HELOC or second mortgage, the goal isn't panic. The goal is understanding your position and building a plan. There is structure to this process, there are options, and you do not have to figure it out alone. If you want help walking through your specific situation, our contact information is in the description below and in our bio. Clarity creates leverage, and leverage creates better outcomes.